My name is Jeff from Mental Health Resource.
And I'm Kata with the Straight Jacket Podcast. And today we have Jeannine with us.
Hi.
And Jeannine is a TEDx speaker. She has 10 years of recovery. And she's also a cycle bar instructor and had her own studio at one point. But fitness enthusiast definitely can tell that we're working out over here.
Thank you.
That's what we want to hear.
Drive worth it.
Yeah, that's what we want to hear, right?
Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
But we are here to talk about the 10 years of recovery and the point to getting there.
Sure.
Right. So tell me a little bit about Jeannine growing up.
So growing up, I had the most idyllic family life growing up. Okay. So kind of bounced around a little bit. Initially, my dad was in the Air Force, but landed in a little town called Peachtree City, Georgia.
Sounds so cute.
It's the cutest.
Yeah.
My brother actually lives there again. It's the cutest. It was built on a golf course.
Okay.
It's several golf courses in Georgia, a little bit south of Atlanta. And we would cruise around on golf carts to get around. It's literally like Mayberry.
Okay.
Very a Delta town. Most people that were there, one of the parents worked for the airlines.
Yeah.
And I grew up there and it was amazing. I did all of the things that you would do in a healthy family. I played Little League. My dad coached all my teams. I got to go to debate camp. I was kind of a nerd. I went to debate camp and, parents were together. It was a great upbringing and family. I was really academically focused more so than anything else. Like I debated and I wanted to go to a really good college. I wanted to be a lawyer. Like all of my goals were certainly more in like the academic. Right. That's kind of where I stood out. And I did do well in high school and I did do well in my SATs and I got into the George Washington University in Washington, D.C., which is a pretty good school.
Okay.
And I got an early admission my junior year. And then my senior year, my parents split up, like kind of out of nowhere. And I lost my fucking mind. Absolutely. You guys cuss on this show?
Yeah. Okay. I'll bleep it out.
I lost. Oh, are you going to bleep things out?
Yeah.
Oh, because I can not
Just
cuss.
for TikTok. Yeah.
Oh,
If you flip, then it's fine.
Okay,
But yeah. I got to do half the show bleeped out for TikTok.
Yeah. I do that too for mine, but I'll just write like F asterisk asterisk K-I-N-G. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
So annoying. But I lost my mind. I completely lost my mind. And I went from doing really well academically to barely going to school anymore. I would leave every day at lunch. The only thing I'd ever really done at that point was I did smoke cigarettes.
Okay.
I just thought it looked cool. But
it did look cool.
It did. Right? It totally did.
It was so good.
Yeah. But my dad and I also had this really cool relationship where so I was smoking cigarettes and, they'd bought me a used Honda Accord. And I remember my dad told me once, he said, "Hey, I saw you driving down the parkway smoking."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and he said, "You smoke like this." And he mimicked that. Like, "You're so cool." And then he said, "Do me a favor, please don't smoke in that car that we bought you."
Mm.
And I was like, okay. And just the way he said it, I was like, okay. And then I don't know, we just had this really good relationship where I really respected my parents. I was not a rebellious kid, up until that point. Smoked cigarettes, like I said. But then after that, I started I completely changed what I looked like. I chopped my hair. God, my pictures from high school are so awkward and awful. Thank God there was no
It's a rite of passage.
I bet yours were good. I already
know. I had burgundy hair and a lip ring and a Guinness sweatshirt in my senior photo.
It was cool. I'm positive.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I can tell. Okay, I can tell. I was not.
Okay.
And I was kind of chopped. It doesn't even matter. But thank God there wasn't Instagram or anything. I chopped my hair off and I started dressing really provocatively and revealing and started drinking a little, still not that much, but certainly more than I had been.
Right.
I never really liked smoking weed, but that would crop up here and there a little bit. But mostly I just destroyed my academics. And I still went to that school because I'd gotten an early admission. I would not have gotten in if I'd applied my senior year. So I still went. And I just couldn't make it work. I was so sad and depressed when I got there because of my parents still, I think. And I couldn't do it, and so I stayed for one semester and then I left and I went back to the University of Georgia, or not back to, but back to Georgia, to the University of Georgia. And I still couldn't go to school there either. I was so sad. It was such a deep, and obviously all of this is in retrospect that I can look back now and recognize
that this is what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. I was in such deep grief,
I mean, that's the thing about trauma is people try to compare it, but it's like that was the biggest trauma you ever experienced.
Sure. Yeah.
Like that was your whole world was shattered and broken wide open. You know, you can't compare it to somebody who's had like, you get what I'm saying? Yeah.
Think of, they say like big T trauma is some sort of like attack where you get assaulted or something.
Right.
And then there's little T trauma. But I actually heard somebody say once that they don't like the big T or the little T.
I don't either.
Trauma is anything that happens that's too fast, too soon.
And hurts too much.
Yeah, exactly. Or too much, too fast, too soon.
Yeah.
And that's trauma. Something that you just can't reconcile as it's happening, that you can't process as it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
How did you find out?
That's a good question. Oh, man. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that. So, and
Well, I'm sitting.
yeah, well, yeah.
You got it.
And actually, that's a moment I walked through at my last rehab, because it was a moment that was very difficult for me to even say out loud. So I went to prom, my junior prom, and I came back at like 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning. I was a good kid. I was allowed to stay out.
Mm-hmm.
And I came home and I was still wearing my prom dress, which I can picture. And my mom was sitting on the stairs and she was crying when I came home. And she said, "Go upstairs to your room. Your dad has to tell you guys something."
Mm.
And I was like, okay. And I went up to my room and my brother came in my room and I sat there in my prom dress and my brother sat on the ground and my dad told us that he was moving out for a little while. And I don't remember.
Was there an affair?
No.
Okay.
No. And I don't remember anything like detail wise. My brother kind of remembers that we asked some questions and I have a really good memory, but that moment in time is lost for me. But what I remember is, you know, he said he was leaving and I remember thinking there's no way this is actually going to happen.
Right.
Because they actually had a great marriage. They were like best friends. They'd been together since high school. I loved watching the two of them together. They talked all the time. He's a pilot. He would call every night and they would talk for an hour. Like, I remember just thinking like, no, this definitely isn't going to happen. Like, I don't know what you're going through.
Right. Figure it out.
Isn't actually going to happen. Yeah. And I remember, do you remember the movie Clueless? Mm-hmm. So I had the soundtrack CD. Mm-hmm. And one year for Christmas, I'd gotten a 5. It was like the best Christmas of my life.
5-disc changer. Yes.
I got a 5-disc changer and a beanbag chair and a lava lamp and a clear phone. Remember
we are the same generation.
Are
yeah, we are. Yeah.
I'm certain I'm older than you.
100%. How old are you?
How old are you?
It's 37 and 10 days.
I'm 45.
Oh my God, you look so good.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Everybody says that, which I appreciate. His eyes
He was like a
widened
baby.
little.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But
That's
we're
good.
the same kind of generation.
It's still the same kind of generation, though.
Clueless was my jam, and then the clear phone happened, and the 5-disc. Yeah. I was there for all of that.
All of my friends and my husband are your age. My husband is 8 years younger than me, and I think it's because I missed a decade using.
Okay.
So it's like I'm 36 or 30. It's like I'm a millennial. Because I'm like a Gen X or something weird.
Something.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm not that. All of my friends and my husband are in that younger generation.
Yeah.
It's really weird. But anyway, so the 5 changing CD, the phone, whatever. And I had my 5 changing CD. And I remember going I had my own bathroom and I went in my bathroom and I would climb up on the sink and take my makeup off. Mm-hmm. And I remember I had this total disassociative moment where I climbed up on the sink and I was looking at myself in the mirror and I was trying to take my makeup off, but the girl in the mirror was crying. And I remember thinking, stop crying. He's not leaving. Stop. Mm-hmm. But obviously it was me. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to the Clueless soundtrack, one of the Radiohead songs. Fake Plastic Trees, that one. And still, when I hear it, it's like this visceral moment where I would the moment.
Trouble.
And I think looking back, that moment, my spirit like left my body because it became not safe anymore. And I don't mean in like a supernatural sense.
Yeah.
I mean like anything about me that was grounded in.
It was a fracture.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And all of my goals that were really grounded in my family life and my upbringing, which was really good and aligned with the goals of my life, which were good at that time. Anything that was that part of me left. And it wasn't safe anymore. I listened to, you know who RuPaul is?
Yeah.
So he's in recovery. And I was at rehab once many years later, and I listened to his speaker tape, his AA speaker tape. It's so good, by the way.
I'll have to listen to it.
And he said that had happened to him. It was, much more, not that we should compare traumas like you said, but his mom was trying to set his dad on fire.
Yeah.
And he was running around the front yard. And he said, and at that moment, my little spirit just jumped right out of my body.
Yep.
And it didn't come back until I got into recovery.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I was like, oh my God, that's what happened to me. My spirit left. This wasn't safe anymore. And my spirit was gone for another 20 years before I finally got sober.
So weird because like our spirit and soul decides to come be in a body, but then it's like, I don't know, I think I overcommitted.
Yeah.
Like, it just wants to...
Well, yeah, maybe that's like the times that we try, but then we relapse again or whatever happens.
Yeah.
But I think a huge part of recovery is bringing your spirit back into your body because nobody wants to live like that.
No.
Nobody wants to live the way that we
shell
live.
situation.
Yeah, nobody wants to live outside and shoot fucking heroin into your neck and go to jail and be dope sick. And, nobody wants to live that way. No one.
It's not at the top of anyone's list.
No, no one wants to live that way.
8-year-old girl is like, when I grow up,
I want to be a heroin addict. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No one says that.
Yeah.
And so I think a huge part of recovery on like an esoteric level is creating a space where your spirit can come back. I think that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, but that's a really good question. Nobody's ever asked me that before.
But then when it comes back, you have to deal with all the things in your body.
Yes, absolutely. And that is the process for me I'm a 12-step person, of steps, of working out, of praying, of meditating, and continually trying to align also the damage we've done here, right? While we were anesthetized.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the spirit coming back and the spirit saying, man, we really fucked up. Were we going to go to law school?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that didn't happen.
Right.
But you know what I mean? So like, but that's a really good question. And the reason I say I had to go through that in my rehab was my last rehab was a therapeutic community, not a 12-step rehab. And I didn't want to go there. It was women only, and I had zero interest in going to I want to go to women only rehab. Are you kidding me? And I had gone to this very, like, what's the word for it? Not county funded, but almost county funded, very old school NA, sit down, shut up rehab.
Yeah, book thumper, indigent.
Yeah, exactly. All parole. Everybody that was there was on parole for the most part. And gritty. It was a gritty scene.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And it was very much like...
It was real.
Yeah. It spoke to me at that time. And I remember the guy saying if any of the women would try to say anything about like some trauma that had happened, he would say, you know what, honey, that's not the right place for this. You can go to therapy, but right now we need to talk about, how you're going to get off of heroin.
Right.
And at the time, I was like, yeah, that's good. That's good. We shouldn't think about any of that. And then when I went to that last rehab, they made me walk through these moments. And that was one of them. Like I came up with the moments myself.
Yeah.
And you had to write it out. And I was sobbing, crying when I talked through that. I'm surprised I got through it just now without.
Yeah.
Because I never talk about it. I was like sobbing, crying. And I remember thinking, this is so stupid. None of this matters. But that was my last treatment center. And I do think that that guy, Steve, who owned that rehab, who I love, he was right in that you really just need to get through staying sober. There is also
therapeutic
value, yes, in processing those places where you're still getting stuck. Because if you want to look at it in the analogy I just gave where your spirit leaves, if you have to remember that stuff again, it's not going to come back, right? But talking about something just simply takes the power out of it.
Heal it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
just saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Just disclosure. The TED talk that I just gave was about,
Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Did, any of that therapy shed any insight that you didn't know before or think about before on the situation?
So I had done a decent amount of therapy around the divorce prior to that. So maybe not necessarily about that, but it definitely was helpful in taking the power out of some of those situations. I think just the simple act of like saying it out loud. And the therapist that I was working with people would get their hours there. They were really young and they were going to school nearby because that was also an indigent program. Actually.
Yeah.
But it was long term. It was 9 months. It was like on the water in Oceanside. It was really nice for women and children. And they let me go there even though I didn't have kids because I knew the program manager. But I had to go to all the kids studies classes, which of course I was super annoyed about, but I ended up loving it.
Yeah.
Like I had to go learn about like what stage they should have pincer skills, like as babies. And I got super into it. But the therapist that I had who was getting her hours said something that at the time I did not value, but she did say, she was like, you need to work on somatic therapy, like getting back into your body. And she wanted me to like move around and I just couldn't do it. Yeah. I just felt dumb. And she was like, what if I faced the wall?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I guess. But when I look back, she was right. That's totally something that I needed to do. But I think it also just gave me a safe space for 9 months. I relapsed once while I was there, but they didn't kick me out the first time. I was there for 9 months. I was around all the little babies, which I loved. And like my mom thinks that kind of woke up a part of me that had died because I was very much in that like criminal aspect. Like I spoke like somebody that had been to prison. I had a convict mentality. All of the softer side of me was gone. And so I think there is probably something to that softer side coming back to maybe make a more like complete person of me. But I know there was some value in that therapy at the time, you know? That's a good question though. I should think about that too, actually.
You were saying that your TEDx talk was on disclosure.
Well, so it's about post-traumatic growth.
Okay.
And the process by which we get there. So post-traumatic growth is this idea that everybody knows what PTSD is, right? After something traumatic happens, typically the assumption is you're going to come back damaged.
Right.
But and in fact, when people go overseas to fight in military conflicts, they're told, okay, you're going to come back one of two ways. You're going to come back status quo as you are or damaged. But there's a third way back from trauma. And this isn't my theory. This is like a studied psychological theory, which is that you can actually come back from a trauma better than you were before you went in, which has turned out to be my experience through my addiction. And the reasons for that, and they did this study at Wake Forest in the 1990s, which is what I'm referencing in my TED Talk. But they studied these people that went through like sexual trauma, cancer diagnoses, children dying. I mean, like pretty extreme traumas. And there are people that now feel that their lives are better subsequent to that trauma.
Is this the perfect amount theory?
I don't think so because I don't know what that is.
Do they know what the variable? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
The perfect amount of trauma creates successful individuals. Like there's a line that there you can go too far and it creates drug addicts and homeless people.
Sure.
And then you can have too little and you have silver spoon epidemic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But perfect amount of trauma creates like really driven, ambitious, hardworking individuals.
So this theory would be more that regardless of the trauma, you can come back more resilient.
Okay.
So, and that's why I think they spoke to people with this range of trauma. Were you going to say something?
I think you kind of answered it with the resiliency. I was just going to ask, what is the variable? Do they know what the variable is?
What do you mean by the variable? So
like
basically,
the thing that makes the 1, 2, and the 3. What makes the 3 different from the 1?
Right.
So the study is basically, and this might not address that because I know there's like scientific theory that I'm totally not familiar with. But in this particular study, they spoke with, I don't know how many participants, but all of whom had been through some sort of trauma. And that's like the sexual trauma, grief, breakups, cancer diagnoses, extreme illness. And I think they just found people that reported feeling better after what happened and now have positive feelings about what happened because of these variety of things. And they feel stronger physically. There's a greater appreciation for life, stronger relationships to the people that like helped get them through, the people that they met along the way. There are all these different reasons for why they feel better.
The positive aspects of a negative.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So I think they just found a group of people that felt better after trauma. And then what they studied was, how do you get there?
Yeah.
And there are 5 steps. And that's one of which is disclosure. So the steps are disruption of a narrative, emotional regulation, like meditation, disclosure, service, and disruption of a core belief, emotional regulation. Yeah. Yep. Service, disclosure. And then ultimately that rewrites your narrative. So like my narrative.
Like the steps.
Yeah. Well, it mirrors, and recovery mirrors so many things in life, which is why I think we're so lucky. And that's why I am actually totally like, if I could go back in time and finish GW and go to Georgetown Law and be a judge, I wouldn't. I would rather have done this for all of these reasons now.
So your soul knew what it was doing, and that's why it did it.
Right. Yeah. Or yeah. And so the process there is that you end up rewriting your narrative. And mine went from loser who couldn't finish college after everything I was supposed to be and became a fucking homeless heroin addict. Loser. That's it. I will always be a loser because I didn't graduate from college. Because my core belief was the only way to be successful was to graduate from college and complete some sort of postgraduate education.
Yeah.
That was it. And buy a house and get married before you're 30 at the latest. You know what I mean? Like that was my core belief.
27. The clock's ticking.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Wait, you're...
no, I'm joking. Yeah. That's like it starts yelling at you. Life starts yelling at you at 27. You're like, old. You're like, no, I'm not. Leave me alone.
But my narrative totally changed to person that is so grateful that I became a heroin addict and went to jail all the time because I learned all these amazing things. I'm so much more grateful now. I get to do the steps, like with what I was just saying. I think that the steps are a design for living, and I'm so glad I found them. And if it took living outside, then it took living outside.
I love that you call it living outside instead of like homelessness.
You know what's funny? I don't even do that on, like, I said that at a meeting
We were
once.
living outside. We were camping,
we were living
actually. Yeah.
I did a meeting once, not even like trying to be funny, and a bunch of people laughed, and I was like, that's literally just how I looked at it. I was like, if I smoked something off foil, and the next thing you know, I'm living outside and blah, blah, blah. And I remember people were like, oh, and I was like, that wasn't even like, you start to have these jokes that you always tell in meetings. Yeah. I'm guilty of this too. I was like, that wasn't even one of my like canned jokes, but that is pretty funny.
It is now.
But so my narrative changed. And so that's what the TED Talk was about. And that's that process of taking something traumatic and turning it into positive growth and change in your life.
And
I think that can be done with any addict.
Yeah. With willingness.
With willingness.
Yeah.
Absolutely. With willingness.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the core
and
key ingredient.
Right. And availability of all the things I'm talking about. Because this does not, like, this presupposes people of our privilege. We're already here. You know what I mean? We're in this country.
Yeah.
There was a free program for me to go to.
Yeah.
If I didn't live here, even if I lived in like, I don't know, Mississippi, I probably couldn't have gone to a free program.
But the numbers are astronomically higher here for addiction. So I wonder what the correlation, absolutely.
Well, there's more people that live here. Is it because of the influx of people going to rehab here? Or is it organic people that were like born here?
I think that just in general, addiction happens at a higher rate in the United States than it does anywhere else.
I thought you meant Southern California.
No.
Oh, yeah,
in the
definitely the United States.
like, we have to have these programs available to us because, it's a good question. It's a good thought experiment.
Well, I think I probably know why.
Yeah.
We are afforded the ability to want, like most places, they don't, happiness isn't a goal, like survival is a goal.
Yeah.
Just getting it done, just living day to day. But I think, and I'm totally making this up.
It's a thought experiment.
No research here or anything like that. I'm just like thinking this isn't talking. Like we have the privilege of also wanting like meaning to life and being happy, and so I think if we don't have that, maybe that's where the drugs come in. Whereas in other places, that's not necessarily as much of a goal. It's like survival, taking care of your family, getting through one day. I mean, that would be my guess, but I'm not sure.
It's a good theory. Being like traveling to a lot of places, I think like they don't have the same expectation of grandiosity that we do.
Yeah.
Like they're really inclined to be happy with family.
Totally.
And like they're way more connected in those ways than we are.
They're way more family oriented.
The antidote to addiction is connection. So I wonder if that's a part of it.
Yeah.
It's just a great thought experiment.
Yeah. No, it really is. I'm sure if we Googled it, it would give us some reasons.
It would give us multiple studies.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever looked it up.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that was the TED Talk. So I got to share that process and, my story. So basically, we jumped obviously way, way, way ahead. But after I left GW and went to the University of Georgia, that core belief of, I'm not on my way to graduating college. I couldn't get anything done. I started getting weird with like food and fitness. That was like my first thing. And I decided to quit school and move to LA to be an actress.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to graduate from school. Like I didn't want to go to class. And, that's a grandiosity. the hallmarks of addiction were present before I was using.
I don't want to work for the thing that I want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I had that from the beginning.
Yeah.
And that was something I had to reconcile with later because it was really easy to blame my parents. Be like, well, if they hadn't gotten divorced, I would have been fine. And that's not true because lots of people's parents get divorced and they don't quit college to be an actress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And an addict.
Right. Exactly. So, and right before I moved to LA, I started doing coke a little. And that was the first real like hard drug, I guess you could say, that I had done. And that, you know how sometimes you're in a meeting of like AA in particular and somebody will say, the first time I drank, I knew it solved all my problems. I did not feel that way with alcohol, but I definitely felt that way with cocaine.
Yeah.
Yes. The first time I did coke, I was like, this is amazing.
I've arrived.
Is this how everybody else feels all the time?
Right.
'Cause I've been miserable. Like, if this is how other people are living life, I could do life like this.
Yeah.
And I loved cocaine, but it was super progressive for me too.
I always say cocaine is my spirit animal.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Me too. I only got to shoot it once and I missed. But so it was numb because it was coke. I didn't feel it. But so many people have told me that was probably good because I might like still be using if that was the case.
Maybe.
You know, because I never got to shoot cocaine. But so like that whole last bit before I left Georgia, I never bought it. Moved to LA and it was really progressive over time. Like I lived in LA for 8 years. I didn't do heroin until I was 30.
Okay.
And so like all the years in LA were a little bit more manageable. I mean, they weren't.
It's like a slow progression though.
Yeah, very slow. I was still working. I got certified to teach spin. That's when I got certified to get into fitness.
Right.
And like I got my SAG card. I didn't do a lot with acting, but I did some.
Some
I was
commercial
homeless.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've always said before that like cocaine bad was very, very different from heroin bad.
Hell yeah.
You know?
It's much more manageable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I could sleep that off.
Yeah.
There's no sleeping off my dope habit.
No.
So I ended up having to leave LA and I moved down to San Diego. And that was when I did heroin. And then that's when everything completely changed. So like the next 5 years, I'm homeless, basically living outside.
Right.
The whole time. I'm sometimes in these facilities, the like county funded facilities. I got arrested 5 times. My last arrest was for strong arm robbery, and I was facing a strike in California.
Oh, let's tell that story.
Well, that's story.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, let's.
All right, let's do it. It's kind of lame, but it's kind of funny. So I was at Sephora.
Okay. Did you strong arm robbery Sephora?
Yeah. Yeah, bro. Yeah.
What a girl wants.
Yeah. I stole NARS orgasm blush.
I was thinking about orgasm today on the way here. I was like, I don't have any more of that blush.
Yeah. This is a makeup.
Oh my! It's a makeup.
Yeah.
Super. That was one called Super Orgasm too. Yeah.
No, I don't like that one as much.
Yeah.
It's pinky. So, as a homeless addict, and were you ever homeless or no? Because you danced.
I
probably not.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you?
There was a couple.
In the car.
Okay.
There was a couple nights I slept like on a bench at the beach, but I didn't have to. I was just like hadn't found a man to suck you by it.
Right.
Yeah.
So my sponsor she danced and did sex work for 20 years.
Yeah.
Didn't get sober till she was 38 as a result.
Yeah.
She never was homeless. She
Yeah.
came to rehab in a car.
Yeah.
And like, you drove here in that car?
I
Why are you here?
Mine too.
You know,
mine was in the
easy.
shop. Yeah.
But like, that was how and that was not my story. I was
Right.
not a guy hustler at all. I was disgusting. I was like the most gutter hype little junkie ever.
Oh, little gremlin.
Yes, I was a
Little pet
gremlin.
Christmas.
I was so gross. I was so gross.
That's hilarious.
I was so gross. So, but the reason I asked is because a lot of, I have found homeless women addicts, especially tweakers, when they're younger, they're stealing a lot of hair products and makeup and stuff.
Right.
Like that's a common thing to steal.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we're trying to like look better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And dress up the outside as much as we can, you know? I actually always wanted to study that. I also noticed a bunch of women addicts have Tinkerbell tattoos. Did you notice that?
No.
Like 5 at my last rehab.
It
had
makes
a
sense.
Tinkerbell
Don't want to grow
tattoo.
up.
Yeah. And like hanging out with the Lost Boys. Always hanging out with Lost, you know?
Yeah.
Anyways, I was always like, that could be a book, the Tinker. Maybe that'll be my next TEDx talk. But anyways, so I wanted to steal makeup and I was homeless.
Right.
And I had a bike. I had like a stolen little like Huffy bike. And my boyfriend and I that I did all my using with went to the mall and I was out on bail for commercial burglary. So I had just gotten arrested like a month before this and they raided our house while we were in jail. And I had a special printer that printed checks and I had check printing ink And so I was out on bail on this check case. That was
Right.
like a pretty big deal. And I knew that. So, and we were homeless. We rode our bikes to the mall and like hid our bikes behind the bushes. And we would go usually steal things together. And that was, you know, by the end of being homeless 5 years, I had all these dumb hustles. And one of them was I would steal like makeup or perfume. And there are people on Craigslist that'll like buy them from you. You know?
Right.
So went in and I stole some makeup from Sephora. I sold NARS Orgasm Blush. But actually, they didn't even see that. I had put a necklace on and was walking around the store and started to walk out into the mall with the necklace on and the makeup in my purse. And a female loss prevention person walked up first and said, "Hey, did you pay for that?" And I was like, "Oh, no, I didn't. You know what? I forgot I had it on, though. Let me just give it back to you."
Yeah.
And I started to take it off. And she said, "Actually, no, you're going to have to come with me." And she grabbed I didn't have a real purse. It was like a Victoria's Secret promotional bag that I was using as a purse.
Yeah.
And she grabbed it and I slipped out of the purse and ran into the mall, right? Because that's where I was.
Right.
So I was running down the hallway of the mall. We're on the second floor. And I swear it was like a cartoon. I looked across the like opening in another store window and I saw this dude. He was like a Brazilian soccer star. He was gaining on me so fast. I could watch him catching up to me, this loss prevention guy. And I remember being like, holy shit. And I watched him in the window jump and I was like, ah, and he tackled me to the ground.
Right.
And I was like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. I'm like screaming in the middle of the mall. And as a result, because you fought, they charged me with strong arm robbery because I fought back with the guy. But I didn't know that yet. So he tackles me and they bring me into the little like loss prevention room or whatever. And they're searching my stuff. And, you know, I'm like facing the wall and I think it's going to be petty theft. And at the same time, my boyfriend got arrested also in another store.
Oh, no.
Yes. And I knew because, so they put me in handcuffs and we walk outside and there was another cop car out there. And I was like, I know who's in that car.
Oh,
and I remember looking and I was like,
no.
that idiot got arrested too. Because I was thinking maybe he could bail me
Did you
out.
look in the window?
No, I couldn't see.
Okay.
And my memory, even though I remember things so clearly, I think he wasn't in it yet. But he also remembers seeing me in the other car too.
Right.
So like we were somehow passing.
Right.
You know, so get in the cop car, going, you know, go to jail. And while I'm sitting there in intake, I remember the cop said it's a 211, right? To the bail lady.
Yeah.
And she said,
That's
yeah.
robbery.
Yeah. And I went, what? And I hadn't spoken a word to the cops because I was so angry.
Right.
I think I gave them my name, but they misheard me. They thought it was like Holden and not Coulter. And I didn't even correct her. I just like stopped talking. And I said, what are you charging me with? And she said a 211 strong arm robbery. And I was like, wow, okay. It was a Carlsbad cop.
That
I
is
was like,
crazy.
wow, okay. And she said, you want to be cute? You don't want to talk to me? I have to go with his story. And I was like, okay. And I looked at the bail lady and I said, what's the bail on that? And she said $100,000.
Oh, man.
I was like, oh my
God. Yeah, stop.
$100,000.
I'm taking a plea deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I go into jail. And then I did change my name because I wanted my Librium. So I'm on record as like, if I go to jail, I need Librium. Or I could have a seizure from heroin.
Yeah.
And so I'm going in, I'm like, wait, where's my Librium? Because I go to jail all the time.
Right.
I know. And I'm like, I should get my little cup. I'm like, where's my Librium? And they're like, you've never been arrested before. And I was like, what? I'm on bail for something right now. That's
Right.
how much I wanted my Librium. I didn't even care if they like realized that.
Right.
And she was like, Holden. And I was like, no, that's not my last name. And so I gave her my actual last name. And she was like, oh, yeah, Jeannine, you were just here.
Right.
Yeah, I was just
Welcome
here.
back.
Yeah.
She love it when they say that. Welcome back.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then I ended up having to go down to Las Colinas for a few days. But so that's the strong arm.
Oh, you took the
Robert.
bus?
Yes, I had to take the bus. And I was
Bus is
so
the worst.
sick.
You're like
Yes.
chained, you're shackled, you're chained to somebody else. It's dramatic.
Were you shackled also?
Yeah, around the waist and well, it depended on the time.
Okay.
Yeah, like sometimes they had a hand to feet. Sometimes I was chained to other people.
Okay.
And then
Okay, you're helping me put a piece of the puzzle together right
Yeah.
now, because in my mind, I am shackled to my feet and I have to
you're
swing
shackled
my
to your
leg up.
waist.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then also my
connected
feet.
to your feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to lean over to get my foot up on one of these trips. And since then, I've had people tell me, there's no way you were shackled. You're not like a serial killer.
No,
And I'm like,
no.
Bro, I have a memory of this. Okay,
Yeah.
so sometimes they did that.
Yeah.
All right, okay. because I remember that on at least one of the trips. I was also really
always
sick.
trying to catch somebody in some I know what I did.
Right.
Like, shut up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's surprising. I haven't gotten a lot of that. Thank God. I'm always worried someone is going to, because these stories are insane.
Yeah.
Insane that I remember seeing the guy. It sounds like a movie.
Yeah.
But like, and some of my friends get accused of making things up all the time, and I know they didn't, but for some, God, I hope I don't jinx it now.
You know what it is? It's like addicts live such unbelievable fucking lives that like they just can't even imagine that this is even how they're like, what the fuck? You know?
Or if you look fine now, which we do.
Yeah.
That I do get.
Thank
Some people are like,
God.
how do you look like this though if you were, according to you, a gutter hype junkie? And I'm like, listen, I had glasses with one lens.
Photographic evidence of me, and well, it's a mugshot because I didn't take pictures of myself.
I want my mugshots.
You can get them.
No, I can't. San Diego won't. I asked for my mugshots for my TED Talk. My mom contacted somebody.
Oh,
to try.
no.
San Diego doesn't release them, and I want them so bad. I had glasses with one lens in.
Mine's on the internet.
I wish mine was.
Yeah.
Where did you get arrested?
That time was Tehama County. LA County, I have a few mugshots, but I don't have any of those.
Where's Tehama County?
It's in Northern California.
Oh,
it's like a little.
Yeah, San Diego doesn't release them. I really wish I had them. So anyways, last couple of days of my using, I lived in a doghouse in my heroin dealer's backyard. And that's like the thing that I shared. Like that's what I shared in my TED Talk.
Yeah.
In terms of how low things could get. So he like locked me in this little shed in his backyard. And that's where I spent the last 3 nights of my addiction, was locked in this shed. I mean, voluntarily. He was my friend.
You locked yourself in.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And he was my friend. I'd known him for a long time, which sometimes I feel like I forget to say. It wasn't like he was kidnapping me. And he would come out during the day and people would come buy dope from
Bring
him.
you water?
The Connect. Yeah. Yeah.
He brought the dog water.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and actually it was like a dog bed on the ground with a San Diego Chargers blanket. And he brought the dog inside for a few days and let me stay outside.
Oh.
He was like, yeah, you can stay out in the backyard.
He didn't offer to let you stay inside?
Mm-mm. He was married. That's why he locked it. And we had nothing going on. It was totally platonic. He just was.
Damn.
You know how I know.
There had to have been a man who wasn't married that would have given you a bed to sleep in.
Dude, I was not
You did it wrong.
I did. I was not a guy hustler, bro, at all.
Yeah, there's a ton of friends. Like, not even anything weird. Like,
Right.
you know?
I mean, so I had a couple, like, in fact, the night before that, I'd gotten kicked out of my sober living, and a guy friend, a very good guy friend of mine, got me a hotel room at a Motel 6.
That's nice.
And that night, he had been clean for like 18 months at that time, and we'd all been using together initially, and he just got out of prison.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd gotten kicked out of my sober living, and she wanted a blood test. And I was like, okay, before you leave, give me your phone, because I didn't have a smartphone. I was like, I need to Google a blood test, fake one. And he was just kind of sitting there. And I was like, don't look at me like that. What am I supposed to do? I don't want to fake a blood test.
Right.
She's forcing me to fake a blood test. I was going to kick. I have a Suboxone, which was true. I had one like chewed Suboxone, half of a Suboxone. And I was like, I was going to kick, but I can't kick outside. What am I supposed to do? And he said, I mean, you could get clean.
Mm.
And that actually is like one of the things that changes my life forever. Like the next day I did go to the doghouse for a few nights. But so I guess I did have, and then it was a guy friend that came and picked me up from that doghouse.
Right.
And I kicked cold turkey at my friend's house out in 29 Palms for the last time. And that's when I stopped. That was January 15th, 2015. So I kind of did, but I had no hustle in terms of guys.
Yeah.
No, I would rather ask for money. Outside of a gas station. Yeah, I feel like there's just
Cans,
different.
Or did you ever get cans?
No, I never did.
I know some people did cans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I always wonder how people get money if they're not.
I would say I ran out of gas. So I had found keys like on the ground. And my thing was, if I looked okay, if I wasn't super picked up, I could walk up to you in a parking lot and be like, hey, I just ran out of gas. My car's around the corner. Do you have literally like $2? I just need to put gas in the car. Mm-hmm. And most people, now I'm sure no one has cash, but at that time, most people would be like,
homeless people take Venmo now.
Really? But you got to have a phone and a bank account. I have a bank account. Really?
They have like a Venmo card.
I didn't have a bank
I've been
account.
asked so many times. I'm like, I don't have cash. They're like, I have PayPal. I'm like,
see,
if you have PayPal, you're not homeless enough for me to.
Yeah, I
PayPal me.
Yeah, I didn't have a bank. I didn't have a bank account. I never could have done that. No.
Well, you don't have to with Cash App. Oh. And then Venmo.
Oh, I guess you don't. You just have the card.
You can have a Venmo without a bank account, and then you have a Venmo card that you can swipe or whatever.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You could do that now, I guess.
But also, when you're buying drugs, you can take the money on Venmo and then Venmo the money back to your dealer, I guess. You could theoretically.
That's true. Actually, that's true. I'm sure that's a lot of it. But yeah, and then that was the last of my using, was in this doghouse. That was in January of 2015, and then January 15th, 2015 is my sobriety date.
What's your biggest accomplishment in sobriety?
Probably my studio, my gym. So when I got back from that doghouse, so I had already gotten certified to teach spin, right, in LA. So I had been teaching on and off over the years. Like I would get sober and I would get a job teaching. Right. So I still had a bit of a resume. I came back, and right before I had moved into the doghouse, I'd gone on Craigslist, and there was somebody looking for a spin and bar teacher in Encinitas. And I'd sent her my resume. She got back to me and set up an interview, which I, of course, couldn't go to. I didn't have a car. Sometimes I would send my resume out, I think, to like show myself that I could get a call, you know?
Right.
And I didn't go, but I actually canceled, which is something I normally wouldn't have done. So I canceled. And I came back from the doghouse, and I was in this sober living that, you know, the guy let me move into for free until I could pay him back. And he was like, okay, you got to get a job. And I thought, I wonder if that chick would interview me again. Mm-hmm. And I reached back out and said, hey, you know, I'd made up some crazy lie about why I couldn't get there. I would love to audition again. And she said, yeah, sure, of course. She and I are still work together 11 years later. I saw her this morning. We took a bunch of pictures at the studio. This chick. So she writes me back and she was like, yeah, sure, of course. So I got a ride down to the studio and I auditioned, and I started with one class a week at the studio on Saturdays. And over time that grew to 16 a week, and I like built this little following. And at the 4-year mark of sobriety, I bought that studio from her. So I got married. I met my husband in year 3. And then we got married. And like right after we got married, they decided they wanted to sell. So I bought the studio and closed it for 3 days and rebranded everything, like painted. It was like the most beautiful place you've ever seen in your life. The logo was like this phoenix that was also a sunset. It was yellow. Like that's probably my biggest achievement, is that studio. And then we had it through COVID. Yeah. Which initially sucked because that happened 6 months later. But it ended up being like the most amazing little community and piece of heaven in Encinitas, like as this pandemic like raged on, you know, like we built an outdoor area. I kept everybody employed. It actually ended up being okay.
I love that.
Yeah. So my studio is actually probably, and my TED Talk, I would say, but the studio obviously took much more work, you know.
What do you have to say to the person that's on the other side watching this right now? They're hopeless, they're helpless, and they don't know what to do.
My biggest fear, not even a fear, I believed in my core that I would never be any different. I remember one of these times I'd gotten a job teaching and I had relapsed. And it was like during a period of time when I was trying to dodge the P tests at Sober Living, right? Like I was like, okay, it's been 2.5 days, but I worked out and drank a lot of water because I knew they were going to test me when I went back. And I taught a class and I was walking down the stairs and I remember stopping in my tracks and I had this deep gut feeling. This voice said, you're going to die this way. Not even overdose, but die like this kind of a person. And it was so scary because that was me. That wasn't like my dad saying that or a drug counselor. That was me.
Yeah.
And I was wrong. Like I was wrong, you know? And when I got back from that stupid doghouse, I had zero belief that my life would ever be different. Even if I got off of heroin, I was 35 and had this record, and I had zero belief that my life would be any different. But the cool thing about this is you don't have to believe anything. If you just do the things that are suggested to you by someone else that is sober and has a little bit of time, you don't have to believe any of it. You don't have to believe for 1 second that it will work. If you just do what they say, it'll end up working out. But you can go into it with no faith. And the other thing that I would say is think about that part of you, that like glimmer of your spirit that I know is still deep, deep, deep down. That glimmer is who you really are. And the world is missing you right now. I really believe that every addict that is out there, every person has a very specific role to play in the world. And where the addict is homeless, there's a spot where like you're supposed to be, and you don't have to believe me, and you don't have to know where that is yet, but we need you.
Yeah.
You are needed. And there's a role for you to play in society, and you'll find that once you get started. But just please know that even if nobody in your immediate life right now seems to need you, people might be actively mad at you, there is a spot for you in the world, and you're missed. And I would just beg you to give that little voice a chance, that glimmer inside of yourself a chance.
I think that's the best that question has ever been answered.
Really?
100%.
Awesome.
Yeah. I love that.
Thank you.
Think,
Can I add one more?
yeah.
The reason I think that too is that, so I overdosed once in an Angelo's bathroom in the men's room. And because, you'll see on Instagram, people will say like, trolls, they'll be like, oh, you'll go back out and overdose and die. Like you'll get comments like that sometimes. And
really rarely, but yeah, it does happen.
And I know people think that it doesn't really matter, but I always use this example. So I overdosed in a men's room in an Angelo's Burgers in Oceanside. And I died like under a urinal, right, in this men's room. And my boyfriend that was there with me at the time, fortunately, like knew CPR. This is pre-Narcan or anything. And he resuscitated me, and we were like running away, and I lived. So 8 years later, I own a studio in Encinitas during a global pandemic, during which women were staying home, men were staying home, their kids were staying home. Everybody's lives got markedly more stressful, worse, more difficult, right? And I provided a space outside for people to go and take care of themselves. And they would go back home, and they were better with their families, and they were better at work. And that ripple effect started from me. And if I had died under that urinal in Angelo's, that's not just some junkie dying under a urinal. That is countless men and women later where that was my role in the world. And that's what I mean. Like the junkie that's out there that thinks that there's no role, no place for you, there is a spot where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, I call it the arm's reach theory. And everything that you touch, everything within your arm's reach is your responsibility.
Yes.
And it's your impact.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I can't stop the war in the Middle East. I can't, I can't stop a pandemic. I can't stop, an epidemic of opioid use. But you sitting right in front of me, like I can make some difference.
Right. Our words.
And maybe the way that you see yourself, or maybe in the way that you think about things later, or whatever the case is, whatever's within my arm's reach is my responsibility.
Yeah. That's what I think too.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And everyone that's out there right now, like there's a spot. You're missed. You're missed.
Could I ask one more question just before? Because I guess, yeah.
I love that you guys have that little timer up there.
So I can keep track,
This just because I don't think we've ever had anybody that was really quite in the fitness industry on the podcast. What do you believe is the impact of fitness on mental health?
I mean, it is an unparalleled way to keep your mental health at peak performance, in my opinion. I mean, and there's so many reasons for that, right? Like
there's a ton of research.
Yeah. There's a lot of research on that. I mean, there are the things that kind of everybody knows, like the endorphins. Once you start moving, the endorphins are actually good for you. But also, especially for addicts, like typically we were in a very weakened state, especially if you had to detox something like benzos or heroin or alcohol, especially if you were detoxing or you've got track marks and you really beat up your body. That also takes a toll on your self-esteem. You actually feel worthless because you feel weak in your body. And so when we can start to work out and get stronger, it helps you see your body as this incredible vessel that survived what you went through and is stronger now. And that's one of actually those post-traumatic growth aspects. You feel stronger in your body often after some sort of traumatic event. And for addicts in particular, we get to have that, right? Like after having gone through what we went through and the sickness, when we can feel stronger, we start to become more aware of it. And then that also helps your self-esteem, right? Like if you do something hard in the gym, that's regenerative. It makes you feel like you can do something hard outside of the gym too. And then you do something hard outside of the gym, and that makes you feel like you can do something harder inside of the gym. So it's so beneficial, I think, specifically for people's self-esteem. But then also the endorphins and breathing really deeply is always a way to get grounded at any time. And when you're working out, even you don't even have to know that, but when you're working out, typically you have to breathe a little harder. And yeah. I mean, it's to me, there's no better cure, or not cure, I don't want to say cure, but there's no better salve for mental health that is struggling than fitness and, moving your body. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you
on
guys
today.
So much.
It was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for rescheduling. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I felt like it'd be worth the drive or worth the reschedule. No,
I appreciate that.
I try to be as understanding as possible with with life.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you guys found me and that you had me up.
Yay!
Appreciate it.
Well, that's it for another episode of the Straight Jacket Podcast. If you're anybody that you love is struggling with mental health or substance abuse, you can go ahead and go on to mentalhealthresource.com and fill out the form, and somebody will be in touch and get you some help. And we'll see you next time, and we love you.